could overpass those teams this year. Think of Bengals, we think of Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys. But there's a few teams where, especially in the AFC, could overpass those teams this year. And the first team I really want to touch on is the Browns. The Browns, I know that nobody really likes Deshaun Watson. Trust me, I don't like him either. But that team is stacked with weapons, and the only reason why I think Deshaun Watson struggled last year was because he came so late in the year. We're forgetting that Deshaun Watson, before he met all those before he had all those lawsuits, he was a top 5 quarterback. I mean, the year before he had all those lawsuits, he was on the Browns, right? And it was right before the end. But Deshaun Watson was just carrying that team. They didn't have a ton of weapons. I believe that year they went like 5-11, but this guy was scrambling around, throwing dimes. I remember watching one overtime game. I think this was I believe it was in 2021. I think it was the year before he got suspended, but I remember it was an overtime game against the Titans. They ended up winning that game. The Titans were really good that year, as the year that the Titans made the NFC Championship game. But and they were riding on the shoulders of Derrick Henry. But that year, he was incredible. Deshaun Watson was incredible. That Texans team was not very good. They went 5-11. I believe it was in 2020. Or maybe it was 2019. I don't know. But the point of everything is, if he can get back to that level, he's a top 5 quarterback. And I believe he will, because it's not like he had a major injury. It's the same thing with Calvin Ridley on the Jaguars. You know, they just got suspended. They were still training just outside of the team facility. So I think he had a good part of last year to kind of get his feet under him. He had a full offseason this year. Full offseason this year. And not only that, the Browns made a lot of additions that were encouraging. They got Cedric Tillman, wide receiver, which already adds to their stacked wide receiver room, which includes Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, who they traded for from the Jets, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, you got Amari Cooper. That's a number 1 receiver. Donovan Peoples-Jones, solid number 2, was very good last year. I don't have his exact numbers. And then Elijah Moore was a great, slot receiver for the Jets. Cedric Tillman, obviously, they got him in the, I believe, third round. But so they have a good wide receiver core. You add on top of that, you still have Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the league. And then the offensive line. Let's talk about the offensive line for a second. Hold on. I'm trying to get my notes up here. Let's talk about the offensive line. Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin, who is really good, Joel Bentonio, and Wyatt Teller. Those 4 guys have played together since 2020. That's their offensive line. Again, I'll repeat. Jedrick Wills Jr., Jack Conklin, Joel Bentonio, and Wyatt Teller. Those 4 guys have played together since 2020. Great chemistry. And the biggest thing about an offensive line is you need chemistry with the quarterback. And so all 4 of those guys, the only one that I think the only change that the Browns had along that offensive line was at center. But all 4 of those guys know the system. They've been in it. And last year they had a lot of injuries. They did. The Browns had a lot of injuries along the offensive line. If they can stay healthy, the Browns are a top 5 offensive line in the league. So you have a top 3 wide receiver. You have, at his best, a top 10 wide receiver, Amari Cooper, and you pair that with Cedric Tillman, a speedster from Tennessee, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's a stacked offense. Really, really stacked offense. So if everything goes well, this Browns offense should be a top 5 offense, close to top 5, between the 5 and 10 range. So that's a team where if they get in the playoffs, they could do some damage. They could definitely make a run for their division. once they get into the playoffs, they could do some damage. And that's if they get in the playoffs, because the AFC is very stacked. But that should be a team that we should look out for, because Deshaun Watson is up there with the best of the quarterbacks. He really is. I'd say if he returns to full Deshaun Watson mode, he's like, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, I would say is better than Deshaun, but I'd say Joe Burrow's better. I would say there's like maybe 4 guys better than Deshaun Watson when he is at his best. And that's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, possibly Aaron Rodgers, maybe Justin Herbert, but like he's top 5, top 6. So stacked offense, because they've got a great quarterback, 4 really good receivers, a top 5 offensive line, and